Others will be joining and rolling in. People are joining quickly. We're at 175 participants right now. So welcome everyone. I know other people are joining as we speak. I'm Kristen Daly. I'm the Executive Director of Global Washington, the host for today. Thank you all for joining. If you are just joining now, we have muted your microphone and not allowed video because we have just under 400 people registered for this. And we know schedules change and we might not have 400, but in order to manage the conversation, we're going to have just the panelists on video today. Again, I want to acknowledge that right now is a very difficult time for nonprofits in particular, very difficult and uncertain. We're not sure what the next few months are going to bring or the next year, but I know from working with nonprofits that fundraising can be challenging under normal conditions. And we know that it's going to be challenging for the next several months. So we decided to create this webinar as a resource, in particular for nonprofits joining in. I know several of you are joining in outside of Seattle and outside of Washington State, so welcome. Global Washington is a nonprofit based in Seattle, and we serve the global development community here. We're a network of 165 organizations that are based in Washington State and do work to improve lives in developing countries. So the content that we provide is usually specific to global development issues. But again, this example we have today could be for any type of nonprofit. We support our members and provide resources such as this to support what they do in terms of fundraising and communications so that they can do their direct service work better. I also want to recognize that this example we're giving today with Upaya Social Ventures is a case study and an example. Not everything you hear today will be transferable to your organization. Sumi and Heather will go into this, but their gala was a few weeks ago, which nowadays feels like years and a long time given the circumstances changing frequently. It also doesn't translate sometimes into different cities or different donor bases. So please keep that in mind. And when Sumi and Heather even approached me, they wanted this to be a collaborative learning environment. We want you all to help share your experiences. Global Washington wants to create a better ecosystem for nonprofits to share their success and failures as we go through this uncertain time. So the format for today is that Sumi and Heather will talk about their virtual gala. And it was a huge success, so I'm thrilled that they're here to talk about it. And then we're going to open it up for questions. And the way we're going to do that is through the functionality in Zoom that you should have on your screen that says Q&A. This is a place where you can type in your question, and we'll have about 20 minutes at the end of the presentation to answer the questions. And the way we're going to answer is I'm going to filter through some of them, and I know a few of you even emailed in advance. And I will filter through the questions and ask them verbally of Sumi and Heather, and they'll answer verbally, so they won't type out their answer. We might not get to all the questions, so if you would like to follow up, you all received a confirmation email with Pratima Stanton's email at Global Washington. Send her the questions and we'll get those to Sumi and Heather. And if you would like them to email you directly with an answer, they're willing to do that. So again, this is the beginning of a series of conversations. The other thing we have is we're gonna have a poll during this presentation just to really understand who's on this call and to also ask about future webinars. What would be helpful to you during this time? So please answer the quick poll. It's 7 or 8 questions, should be very short, but we really want to, there it's active now. We just want to know how else Global Washington can support you in this journey. So with that, I'm going to turn it over quickly. Suman Bhat-Kincaid is here from Upaya Social Ventures, and she's going to start and then turn it over to Heather to talk more about the logistics and tactics. So Sumi, why don't you go ahead and start?
Yes, hi, Kristen. Thank you so much. First of all, we just want to thank Kristen and Pratima at Global Washington for hosting this webinar. We've heard from a lot of you asking about how we executed the virtual gala. And I just want to reiterate that we had never done this before. And so we did have a lot of lessons learned that we're very excited to share with you. But you are all our peers. And so I really look forward to learning from you as well. The situation changes daily, and so our response to it has to change daily as well. So as Kristen mentioned, my name is Suman Bhat-Kincaid. I'm Director of Philanthropy at Upaya Social Ventures. I'm going to give you just a quick overview of who we are as an organization and kind of set the scene in terms of how we came to decide that this was going to be a virtual gala. And then I'm really going to pass the reins on to Heather, who is going to have the larger part of this conversation because she really is able to focus on the tactics and the logistics of how we really did this. And I should say Heather Targosz is our marketing and communications manager at Upaya. So to begin with, Upaya is Upaya Social Ventures. Of course, we're a nonprofit organization, and we fight extreme poverty through the generation of dignified jobs. We support early stage businesses that create jobs for the poorest of the poor. And so Upaya to date has helped generate 15,000 jobs with the goal of getting to 50,000 by 2022. We are a team of 11 people. So there are 5 of us in India and 6 of us here in Seattle, and actually 5 in Seattle that are actually in one office together. And this year, on March 6th, was going to be our 5th gala. Typically, our gala would have had about 200 attendees. We have a silent auction, we have a live auction, and a paddle race. So pretty typical gala for probably most of you. And this was also the largest source of individual donations of the year for us and really accounts for a significant portion of our budget. So a lot of planning had already gone into this. So far, we had already had 225, I think, ballpark registrants for the gala by the time we had to start thinking about coronavirus. And so basically what happened was we woke up the Monday before our gala, which was on a Friday, and our team got together and met, including our board chair. And we had the conversation of, okay, this could get worse. What are we going to do? And we were in a position where, whereas now it's a known factor, we were still not sure what was going to happen. But what we really decided was we needed to be decisive. And if we were able to be decisive about this, then we would be able to really move forward and focus on the solution and be able to really kind of set our plans in motion. And so it was a really frightening decision to make. Like I said, it was a team of 5 in our board chair, and there was a lot of doubt about whether this was the right thing. But really what it came down to was we wanted to be on the safer side of this decision, no matter what was going to happen. And so that's what we did. That Monday, we decided that we were going to cancel the gala, excuse me, and switch to a virtual gala. So our goal for the gala was going to be to raise $200,000. And so that was the goal that we set for the virtual gala. And so that's kind of the scene, setting the scene for where we were. And now I'm going to go ahead and let Heather take over and talk about just all of the tactics and logistics that went into this.
Heather, can I say one thing before you start to the audience? I would advise you to hold your questions. Don't type them in yet in the Q&A, because I do think Sumi and Heather will cover a lot of the questions that are being asked right now. So think about your question, or if it's been, you can write it out. If it gets answered in the next few minutes with Sumi and Heather, then you can delete your question. Thanks.
Thanks, Kristen. Well, hi, everyone. So I'm Heather Targosz. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager at Upaya. And as Sumi and Kristen both mentioned, we had to redirect our gala online in just 4 days before it was supposed to take place in Washington. So I'll just reiterate that, while there were many challenges we had to deal with to get everything online so quickly in just those few days, I also have to recognize that the urgency of our campaign likely in a way played to our benefit, as well as the fact that we were maybe one of the first fundraisers here impacted by COVID-19. And so there was definitely some novelty to that. So while I know that every organization's situation and story will be different, I'm hoping I can at least answer some of the questions that we've been getting around the communication strategy and the tech tools that we used to bring our gala online. And I'm going to keep it pretty short because I do want to make sure we leave plenty of time for questions. And I'm happy to dive deeper into any of these pieces. So as Kristen said, you can go ahead and leave your questions now or at the end. I'll start with one of the most practical questions I've been getting probably the most frequently, which is about which platforms we've been using. So I'm going to share my screen and hopefully you'll be able to see sort of a preview of our campaign. Sumi, Kristen, can you nod if this looks good? Awesome. Okay, so this is our main campaign page, and we hosted it on a platform called Classy. We've been using the Classy platform for almost a year, so I was really lucky to already have been familiar with it so that I could get it up and running pretty much overnight. And there were a lot of things that I think were really instrumental with Classy in particular, but there are also lots of things I think that we learned through this that you probably could recreate in whatever platform you're using. For us, it was definitely crucial to be able to get it up and running instantly. As soon as we announced that our campaign was, or that our gala was being canceled, on that Monday night, we already were getting donors asking how they could make a donation, how they could support us. So I really could not get this campaign fast enough. Secondly, the peer-to-peer feature, and this is part of Classy, but I think other platforms have this as well. The peer-to-peer feature was key in order for us to get our table captains engaged, and I'll go in a little bit detail later on. But then also finally, in general, we were just using this campaign page as sort of a home base for our whole virtual gala. It really became like a living page that I was constantly updating with new content every day, so our donors could come back to it and see the new videos we had published or check the fundraising meter at the top of the page. There's also campaign activity at the bottom where you can see people who have donated and some notes that they have left. So I think that was all really beneficial to have and make it feel kind of like a live event that everyone was participating in. For our live auction, we use Greater Giving, and this is a software that we've been using for years for our in-person gala, but it was the first time that we tried out their online bidding. Typically, I think they say it takes about 30 days to get this platform up and running for online bidding. Luckily, we were grateful to have our colleague Daphne, who worked closely with the team at Greater Giving to get it up in just, I think, under 24 hours. So that was awesome, but it was our first time trying it out. And I will say, I found Greater Giving's front end to be not as customizable as I would have liked. And so I went ahead and made a landing page for our live auction right here on our website too. And so this basically enabled me to just embed videos and write longer descriptions and include buttons and things for each of our live auction items. It was just something I felt was a little more user-friendly. And then all these buttons would take donors to that Greater Giving bidding page. All right, so other questions. I've been getting a lot of questions around our communication strategy. How often were we communicating with donors? What kinds of emails were we sending out throughout the campaign? So I'll kind of give you an overview of what those sort of 4 to 6 days looked like. We made our official announcement that the gala was canceled on the Monday late afternoon. This was the Monday before the gala was to take place. And so this announcement went out in emails to all of our registered guests and on social media, but I also posted it on Facebook, updated our Facebook event, and then I put a pop-up on our website. So anyone coming to our website would be able to see that information. And basically the messaging on that was, letting them know that we had to cancel, but also to stay tuned for details because we were going to be launching a virtual gala the following day. And then from here, basically we kicked off a 4-day virtual Gala campaign, which you can see sort of an overview of on my screen now. Basically, we took all the pieces of our event program, which we already had in place because the gala was only 4 days away. We took all those pieces and spread them across 4 days, sprinkling out videos and content each day through a series of emails and on social media. And so, I mean, the idea of that and why we spread it over 4 days was really just to keep everyone engaged and, like, to be honest, because that's just as quickly as we could create that content and get it out, because everything was kind of happening in the moment at that point. On day 1, we sent out a welcome to the virtual gala email. This one went to all of our would-be guests, so those 225 people that were registered, but we also included people that had RSVP'd no to the gala, people we invited in the months prior but couldn't attend. Now it's online, so everyone can attend, so we included them in those emails too. And then from there, we got into a rhythm of sending emails every day right around noon, and we made sure that every email had something new and significant to share and something to announce each day. So on day 2, which was Wednesday, we shared the video of our board chair, Sharmila, giving her welcome speech, and we teased the live auction. On day 3, we officially launched the live auction, and we shared videos of our keynotes, of our CEO and our keynote speaker. And we also had fun videos with our auctioneer for each of those auction items. And then on day 4 was our final day, and we announced a $25,000 match that day. And this was the day where we shared a video of our co-founder, Sachi, her inspirational ask, and then a job holder success story as well. So those were sort of the 4 days. And then, of course, on the 5th day, which was Saturday, which was when we sent out a thank you email to everyone announcing that we had met our goal. And I think that thank you is important too. But now I'm just going to share some key takeaways. I think Sumi mentioned we all sort of were really just blown away by how we met and surpassed the goal of this campaign. And so we sat down as a team, the 5 of us and our board chair, to kind of figure out, like, what were the key takeaways? What are things that we could maybe pass on and learn from this? So first of all, making it fun. We get a lot of comments from our donors about how much they love coming to our gala every year, and a lot of them were really sad that they couldn't come this year. And so we wanted to make sure that some of that fun and energy carried through online as well. I mentioned we made videos for each part of our program, and everyone in those videos, you might have noticed, all dressed up as if they were actually at the gala. And so that was kind of fun. We brought our auctioneer, Fred, into our office, and we recorded some videos with him. And we've been working with Fred for years, and actually some of our donors have really come to look forward to the energy that he brings to the event. So we thought it'd be really fun to get him involved. And so, I mean, even though our live auction brings in a small portion of the funds raised during our gala, we still felt like it was really important to have this piece of the event online, because we thought that would help just to make it feel like more than an email campaign, something kind of live and real time that would just add to the fun of the event. And all those videos, by the way, that you see on our website are just recorded on our phones. There's nothing high tech there. So I think anybody would be able to do that. Another key component for us that added to our success was really our table captains. We already rely heavily on our table captains every year to invite their guests, fill their tables, and then motivate those guests to be really generous during the gala. And so they were the very first people that we called when we decided to transition to a virtual gala. And we asked each of our table captains to set up a peer-to-peer fundraiser, which I showed you on our page a little earlier. And those peer-to-peer fundraisers are set up through our campaign page, and that way guests can donate to their virtual tables, if you will. And we even called these sub-campaigns tables instead of fundraisers. So that sort of added a personal touch, because everyone at the gala would have known their table captains and would have been invited by their table captains, but it also added a little bit of fun competition to it as well. But we really could not have done it without those table captains. And then keeping our donors engaged throughout the campaign with those daily emails and fun videos. Each day we released a new video or two, and I added them to the campaign page, giving donors sort of a reason to keep coming back. So if you were looking at the campaign page today and it has all those videos and content, it didn't look the same on the first day or the second day. Each day we were sort of dribbling new content into that page. And of course you have the meter at the top and different things. And so I think our donors really kept coming back to that page. I also made short little GIFs and images and things that I shared on social media when we hit certain fundraising milestones too. Okay, so here's what's interesting. Over half of the donations that we got through this campaign came from people that were not even registered for our gala. So we even had a few individuals set up virtual tables who weren't planning to attend in the first place. So that's another takeaway for us, which is just to invite all of your donors beyond just those who would have been at your in-person event. And we sent our fourth email where we announced our match on the last day of the campaign. We sent that email out, a different version of it, to our entire donor base and all of our email subscribers. So as a way to just include that broader audience. From the very get-go, we were always very open and honest with our donors about how vital the gala is for our fundraising every year. Because as Sumi mentioned, it makes up about 25% of our operating budget. And so we weren't shy about sharing that and sharing our fundraising goal and how much we count on this funding for our mission. And finally, this is not new advice, but we really made sure to share and recognize all of our donors and sponsors. Several of our emails included shout outs to sponsors and especially generous donors. And we responded to every donation and personal email with a phone call or an email from our leadership team. So again, I'm happy to take questions about any of this. But first, I'm going to turn it back to Sumi real quick to address some of the other questions we've been getting around donor insights.
Thanks, Heather. I almost didn't mute, or didn't unmute. Yeah, and this will be quick because I really think that when we're talking about our relationship management processes, it really is a case-by-case basis, right? Depending on who your supporters are and who your audience is. And again, I'm happy to answer questions during the Q&A, and we're happy to have offline conversations about a lot of this as well. But to begin with, I just want to reinforce what Heather was saying. From the very beginning, we tried to be very sincere and open about the decision we made, how difficult that decision was, what this meant to us in terms of the possible repercussions, and then really sincerely asking for support. And so in terms of thinking about the tone of the communications, we really worked hard to make sure that we were just really open, and that this was about all of us really trying to do this together to make sure that we were able to continue to do the work. And really at the end of the day, it was about the job holders. And so we really tried to make sure that the messaging was very kind of emotionally open, and then also always keeping the mission in mind. Thinking about engaging some of these different audiences, like thinking about table captains and then sponsors. We very proactively quickly reached out to the sponsors so that they knew what was going on, advising them of the change, but then also, very quickly talking about the different ways that they would be acknowledged through this campaign, since they wouldn't be acknowledged at a gala, right? And so making sure that that their sponsorships are acknowledged on the website, that in our daily emails, we made sure to kind of call out sponsors at different stages. Like at one point, we specifically called out sponsors that were 5,000 and up, for example. So things like that. And another thing that we did was asking some of them for permission to announce their gifts at key points of the campaign, so that again, it was another opportunity for us to call them out and make sure they were getting the visibility that they had hoped for. In terms of the table captains, I think Heather really covered most of that, separate communications with them, and really giving them more information and more of that inside track of what was happening was something that we really wanted to make sure to do to keep them engaged and really have them understand what we were doing. And then in terms of individual outreach to key supporters, I think you all know this, but at the end of the day, the gala website, all of these technical pieces could have been perfect, but it's about the relationships. And so we were speaking to donors on a daily basis behind the scenes, most of you may not know this, but I literally have been at Upaya for 2 months. And so really it was our CEO, Kate, and our co-founder, Sachi, who were actively calling a lot of our supporters and having conversations with them and really expressing our gratitude, as well as just all of the things that we were working on, like the live auctions coming up in a few days. And have you seen the video that our board chair, Sharmila, has posted? Just really making sure that we were staying in touch and kind of maintaining momentum. One of the things that I wanted to mention when Heather was talking about timeline was ahead of time, we also talked about when is the lull going to be in this process, right? Even in a 4-day campaign, at some point people start to just go on with the rest of their lives and are not necessarily paying attention to what's happening with the gala. And so really our communications, our videos, all of those pieces, and then also all of the donor outreach we were doing behind the scenes was about maintaining that momentum so that we could get over that sort of hump that we actually saw on Thursday morning, for sure. And so those were some of the pieces that we were thinking about. And, the last thing that I will say is, what if this had turned out differently, right? What if the gala didn't raise as much money or more than we were expecting? What are some of those options? And obviously I'm just sharing these ideas as a peer. You all have lots of your own ideas as well. But obviously I think the first thing is you revisit that attendee list, right? And you start to create cultivation plans for a lot of those supporters who have really been loyal donors for years. And you start to think about how to have conversations and engage with them, because again, it's about those relationships. And I think we would have considered and are actually talking about hosting an event in the fall. And maybe I know that a lot of you are thinking about that too, like how do you do that? And I think it's about maintaining those relationships even as you're getting to get them to the fall and being really active in that way. And last but not least, and because I have information about this too, obviously there are a lot of opportunities right now to seek institutional support. A lot of a lot of foundations and just different institutions are really starting to build funds where they can help support a variety of businesses, nonprofits, individuals in the community. And so one example I have for you, one of our board members, Caroline Bresson, who's the executive director of Open Roads Alliance, she actually just shared with us that they have a grant opportunity. If you go on their website, it's openroadalliance.org/COVID-19. And I can type that into the comments if you guys want to look at that. But she wanted me to make sure that I share that with you. They're an organization that really focus on trying to help nonprofits who really are in a good place and are very stable, but then they kind of hit a roadblock, and that is what this would be. And so please do go check them out and see if you might align well with them. And so that's really all I've got to say about Donor Insights. I'm happy to answer questions along with Heather as well.
That's so great. Thank you, Sumi and Heather. That was fascinating. There are so many good questions out here right now. So I'm going to do a few of them. We'll try to capture all of these and get back to you. But a couple of quick logistics, and maybe for Sumi, either one. Great that you cultivated the sponsors. Did you have any sponsors that ask for their money back?
No.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And to be honest, also, I think we worked really hard to be proactive about if there were a couple of sponsors that we were concerned might consider that, just based on what their needs were. We were very proactive in making the call and saying, here are all the ways that we're going to make sure that we do acknowledge you. The other thing that I'll say that we're even talking about now is, for those sponsors where that maybe wasn't quite what they were looking for, we're thinking about other communications plans for the next 3 to 6 months of being able to post about them on Facebook, just sharing different pieces of information about them so that we can continue to give them that visibility.
Okay, and then 2 questions I'll bundle. The 200,000 goal, was that net or gross? And then can either of you explain a little bit more this virtual table? There's a lot of questions around what that really looks like. How do you know you're sitting at somebody's table? What does that feel like? Isn't everyone just a donor? So if you could talk about 203 net or gross and talk a little bit more about the virtual table.
Sure. The 200,000, it was a net goal. And yeah, so I mean, as I mentioned, our table, and actually let me just share my screen. I'll pull up the webpage so you guys, so we're all looking at the same thing. Okay, so now you should see my web browser here, and I've got the campaign page pulled up. So I think this is something that's kind of unique to our gala because we were only a week away from the actual event. So we already had all of our registrants, all of our guests registered. We had all of our table captains. So the way that we run our event typically is we rely on table captains. A lot of them are board members. A lot of them are significant supporters that have been with Upaya for years. And so they will purchase a table or even sponsor a table. Everyone gets a table with sponsorship as well. And so we ask these people to then captain a table and invite 10 guests to fill that table, or 20 or 30 or however many tables that table captain has committed to. And so at this point, 5 days before the gala, they had already invited and confirmed their guests for their table and been sending them updates about upcoming gala. And so they were, all of our table captains, I think, were pretty in the loop and connected and sort of ready for this gala. And so that really played to our benefit because I think, we had their attention and they were all, committed and really interested to see how it was going to play out online. And so if you're looking at my screen right now, basically Classy and other peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns, basically you set up your overarching campaign, which for us was the virtual gala, and then you invite people to create sub campaigns or what they call fundraisers. And those fundraisers, then when you donate, I mean, think of it as like people will do fundraisers for like a marathon, where you're saying, will you support me? I'm going to run the marathon. It's sort of similar to that. And so instead of a runner or a fundraiser, we just call them tables. And we really encouraged our table captains to go online. It takes like 3 clicks to set up their fundraiser because at least through Classy, I was able to put in a bunch of default text. I can open up one of these pages so you can see what the fundraiser pages look like. But basically they can upload their picture and write some information about why they want to support the gala. So they all created these pages, and for the donors, then I think it was just a really good connection point because they would have already known who their tables were because they were invited by those table captains to sit at their table. So this was a way that they could interact with those table captains and support them in particular because, I mean, at the end of the day, I think people, people support people, not so much just fundraising pages, right? So I think that really was crucial for us, at least in the way that we typically run our event.
And how many table captains did you have?
I think we had probably, that's a good question because we had several that were hosting multiple tables. Okay. So, but we probably had like 15 table captains or so, and definitely at least half of those or more went online right away and set up their own fundraising pages. And for the ones that didn't, it was easy for me. I just set their fundraising page for them and said, like, you don't have to do anything. We've got this page up and running because we had a feeling their guests were going to be looking for their tables because they would want to, support their table captains. And so we created pages for everyone else, but it was pretty easy to do.
That's great. And I wanted to reinforce the fact that we also created tables for some of the captains. I think you have to think about how do you create the least amount of work as possible so that they get engaged quickly, right? And so if that's what needed to happen, then no problem.
Yeah, that's great. Kind of related to that, I mean, I love the idea of the table captains and that people are going to be connected to their table captain in that. Related to that, many events are also built on the idea of networking. Come either, like you said, people see this as a social gathering. I've been to the gala once and it is a tight-knit group of donors that know each other, get together, and it's very social. There's other events that are more professional networking. So do you have innovative ideas on how to recreate that space for personal connections in this virtual space?
I think we could do it through, I mean, we didn't have really that piece. I know our table captains were, again, like we relied on them so much. And I know they were reaching out and connecting with all their guests on like by phone and all that, to keep things really personal. But as far as networking, we didn't really have that piece. I think I could see that working really well, maybe through like a Facebook event or something like that. But we actually found most of our guests didn't join our Facebook event. They might have been seeing our stuff through Facebook, but not necessarily through that event page.
Yeah,
Right.
and I was going to say, I mean, so yeah, this is definitely a different kind of event in that regard. And I think that's part of why we are thinking about doing some kind of a celebration in the fall, because we want for people to have that opportunity to actually come together, especially our gala, and the character of our gala is definitely about that. And so for us, it's about a later, I think more of a later event to do that too.
Great. So there's questions around the live auction. First off, was it actually live where everyone had to be there? It sounds like there was a virtual page as well, but you did have an auctioneer. So talk through that. And also an interesting question. Someone said, I noticed there were items in your auction that were dining experiences, and now there are so many restaurants that are closing. Did you have to think about that beforehand? And I know the timing of your event was before the restaurants closed, but have you had any problems with some of those items since they were restaurant related?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer that question first. We haven't yet. But yeah, like at the time, this was before really the restaurants were closing and anything like that. So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a good point and something that, I'm going to make a note of, that we make sure we follow up with those donors and the auction winners, just to make sure that works out. I imagine that they, most of these said that they don't really have an expiration time frame. So I imagine they would just be able to schedule those dinners in the fall. A lot of them are just hosted by individuals in their homes. So I think they would probably just be looking at postponing. And then as far as the live auction, so the videos we did with our auctioneer, we recorded all the videos on Wednesday. He came into our office and we just recorded all of the videos of him sort of teasing and introducing the auction items. And then I recorded just some like fun little blurbs of him saying, 5 hours left in the campaign, or, make sure you're checking this out, like don't get outbid, and that kind of stuff that I sprinkled throughout, but they weren't actually live. None of our videos were actually live. Everything was recorded in advance. I mean, like that morning or the day before. It was all pretty tight turnaround. But the live auction videos I did put on Facebook as Facebook premiere videos, which basically just means that like you set a time when they will premiere, and it sort of gives the teaser saying like, watch for this video that's going to premiere at 4 p.m. today, and people can tune in live and comment on it as soon as it gets posted, but they weren't posted live. Our live auction, we had it running for just over 24 hours. I think we kicked it off at noon on Thursday, and then it actually ran until the close at 8 p.m. on Friday. I will say most of the bidding happened in the last, 4 or 5 hours of that time. But we did have it up for a good, full day, almost a day and a half.
And how did you decide that time frame? One question was, why not open the live or the auction day one?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, we weren't ready to open it on day one. We didn't have the software to be able to do it right away. And so we pretty much launched it as soon as we were ready to, which was not until Thursday. Yeah.
But a good concentrated, it sounds like if a lot of people just did it at the end and used that, that's probably a good reason to concentrate it.
Yeah, and again, I think we were thinking about the momentum piece as well, and wanting to really kind of spread that out. And so there needed to be that little sense of urgency around it. And again, there were a lot of conversations happening behind the scenes that needed to keep people focused on that live auction in that moment. And it's harder to do that for 4 days or 2 weeks or whatever. That starts to, lose interest at that point, I think.
Mm-hmm. So another question is about the match. Did you secure all the matches beforehand? How did you talk about that? This is, I can't remember if you talked about this earlier, if there was a match, and if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we did. So we secured the match. I mean, actually the match came up during this campaign. So it wasn't something we had ahead of time. We had a really generous donor just kind of call and say, hey, I want to do this. And so we had a conversation with them, our CEO, Kate, in particular, and then asked if we could do it on Friday. And the reason that we decided to do it on Friday was because we knew that would be the last push, right? That was the last day of our campaign. We really wanted to kind of add a motivator for people that were following us to make a donation that day. And so we launched the match on Friday. So we knew like on Monday or Tuesday and then decided for Friday. So that's about as much time as we had. And it was amazing, actually. There were a lot of people that responded specifically because of that match. And so that was a really exciting thing. And I even had a friend call me and say, oh, and my company will also match. And so you're going to get like, you know, sort of this double match that's happening. And she was so motivated and excited by that. And that was a really great energy to have be part of that last day.
So there's a couple of questions around the cost. How much did it cost for this technology? And if you could share a little bit the cost for this compared to the cost of a live gala, and did you have to forfeit any money on the venue? Did you get your money back from the venue that you had secured? So if you could, as much as you can share, I know some of it might not be available, but, or just in general, how much did it cost last year for the live gala versus this type of gala? And a little bit more around the contract with your venue caterers.
Yeah, well, so I think all done and said, the virtual gala cost us about half what the in-live gala or in-person gala would have cost us. But a lot of that is just expenses that we were not able to recoup from the venue. And we are talking with them about whether we can just push those deposits we paid to a further event in the future, which would be great. And then that would ultimately lower what we had spent on this event. You know, there's an expense to getting Greater Giving. In the first place, there's also an added expense to their online bidding feature. I'm getting a note that my internet is unstable. Am I all right?
Yeah, you're okay. You glitched for a second, but you're okay.
You're good.
Okay, great. Yeah, so there's obviously an expense with that. Classy has costs. We were already on the Classy platform using it for, you know, our regular donation, so there was not an added expense for us, but there's definitely transaction fees there. And you know, some of the vendors and things that we weren't able to get out of those contracts. But in general, I think, yeah, it costs, all done and said, about half what it would have.
Great. And for others, we're actually thinking for Global Washington to type up some resources. The issue around venues and contracts also is dependent upon either the mayor or the governor making a declaration that there can be no gatherings of 50 people or more that trigger some contracts. So we'll try to follow up with some resources on our website too. A couple of logistics things. Heather, can you put up the screen of the timeline you did again? I think people just were interested in that. And related to that, did you ever consider to do a live streaming portion at the end, maybe to thank everyone?
Yeah, well, I mean, at first we were considering live streaming the event on Friday evening. You know, it was one of the ideas that we played with. But we sort of determined that, okay, if all of these 250 people now have a free Friday evening because they're not coming to our gala, we really couldn't imagine them sitting in front of their computers on a Friday night and watching us talk. So that's why we recorded everything that we would have shared at the gala, but in just like bite-sized 3 to 4 minute videos, and posted them and trickled them throughout those 4 days. And that way people could watch what they're interested in. And again, like the campaign page became a home base for that. So they could go there and see all the videos that we've shared throughout the 4 days and see, you know, watch the ones that you know, are interesting to them instead of sitting through a live stream. But I think, I don't know, I mean, I could see ways that could work, but we just opted not to.
I think an evening event in particular is not a great opportunity for a live event. I could see doing a lunch. I'm actually going to attend a virtual one on Monday for Solid Ground. I think it'll be interesting. So, but yeah, an evening event, it just didn't make sense to us that would be possible. And you have to consider everybody's at home and trying to deal with their kids and do all of these different things right now. So just being realistic about who has the capacity to do that.
Great. Heather, is there a way that for your screen, could you type the Open Road Alliance URL on and share your screen with it? The chat function is disabled for participants, Sumi, so they can't read that
Okay.
URL.
Do you see it on the chat, Heather?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can grab it from
You can
there,
just copy and
we'll
paste
share
it.
it with everyone. It's Open Road Alliance, all one word, .org/COVID-19. But we'll post it up there for you all too. Maybe Sumi can answer this as Heather's doing that. One question was, did Heather really say that half the revenue was from those that were not registered? And were those people already in your database, or was that more of just word of mouth?
I believe the answer is it was a mix. Yes, Heather said that.
Yeah.
But it was a mix. And I mean, I know that because I had people who were in my community who were not coming to the gala and not in our system who were making donations as well. So there were a good number of just supporters, you know, that were, oh, there we go. Yeah. Heather, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
And I did want to mention also, I can't recall if we talked about this, but you know, we really balanced our communications between, we wanted people to get one email a day, but in order for us to share more stuff, we were actually doing that on social media, on Facebook. And so I also, that was also where all the videos were posted. And so it was a good way to make sure we weren't inundating someone's inbox, but there was still access to information. And I also think that attracted more donors who were not coming to the gala, because all of our networks then were getting to see all of this information, and people were sharing and things like that.
So how many individual donations did you get versus how many people came to the gala last year?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. Do
Okay.
you, Heather?
I think we had just, if I'm remembering correctly, over 250 donations. And last year we had just over 200 people in the room. But what you also have to remember is, like, people in the room a lot of times are couples. So even if we have 200 people in the room, we would expect like 125 probably individual donations from that. So yeah, so 250 donations was actually way more than we were expecting for an in-person gala.
And also we had donors who made donations that were larger than they have in the past. So that was pretty amazing as well.
Great. One question is, did you set up a fund a need? Is that something specific? And maybe I missed this. Is there a raise the paddle kind of equivalent or fund a need, or is that better for in person?
Well, we didn't do like a live raise the paddle type of thing, but I kind of think, you know, our gala page here where you have this meter at the top, that sort of helped us recreate that. I mean, I think what's key to having a raise the paddle in the room is, one, you have the momentum of seeing all these other paddles going up, and you have that recognition, you know, donors can, like, are obviously they stand up or they raise their paddle, so they're being recognized. And so the way that we were sort of able to recreate that through our campaign page, again, is this meter at the top. So people could come back every day and kind of see how we were doing against our goal. And then also at the very bottom, the campaign activity. This is where every donor, when you make a donation, your name and your dollar amount, I mean, you can choose to be anonymous, and some do, but you can also just share this publicly, and that kind of maybe does a little bit of that recognition piece that a live auction would have, or not a live auction, a paddle raise would have. But yeah, we did not do any particular raise the paddle time frame or anything.
Yep, that makes sense. So there's a questions around more lessons learned now that you've had a little bit of time to reflect, knowing what you now know from just the virtual gala. What would you have done differently?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think, like, looking back, I mean, if we had more time, you know, there were just some things that I think we could have done cleaner, or maybe like thought through a little more, but we were really just rolling things out as we were coming up with the ideas, because it was all happening so quickly. And I think there was a lot that was like, you know, I don't know, forgiven because everyone knew the situation we're in, and it was more like, it felt more real and live because of that. So I think, yeah, if we had more time, maybe we could have, I don't know, made things a little bit cleaner, but I'm not sure. What do you think, Sumi?
I agree. I mean, in the time frame that we did it, I have to say that I'm really proud of us. I think we did what we needed to do. One thing that we didn't get to do that was, a bummer, but we're going to save and hopefully use is the silent auction items. So there was a lot of effort that a lot of our volunteers went to gather those items. And, Heather, as always, was working really hard and cataloging and doing all that stuff. And we actually made the choice not to do the silent auction because it was just, we need to kind of maintain focus on the really big things that needed to happen. And so if we had time, maybe we'd find a different way to do that, a different way to engage on that level.
So does that mean the auction items you had were more experiences? One of the questions would, how did people pick up their physical item that they got from the auction?
Yeah, all of the live auction items are experiences. So we would put them in touch with the donors via email or phone, but we didn't have anything that physically needed to be picked up.
So some of the questions, again, is related to what you all said in the beginning. What was the date again? March 4th?
6th.
March 6th. So this was before a lot of the more restrictive actions of closing restaurants and encouraging people not to gather. Do you think you would have the same success if you did a gala this weekend, tomorrow night? Virtual gala, I mean?
Yeah. It's hard to say. I mean, that's a speculation. I mean, I think that I'll sort of use this question to also mention something that I've been meaning to say, which is, I think thinking about how we executed it was really important, and I think that we would still do it the same way now. We all give our CEO our CEO a lot of credit for really keeping us going. The way we were task oriented on a daily basis in terms of really strategically thinking about what needs to go out today, why are we doing it, what are we accomplishing with it, was really key to our being able to do this. And so I could see us having some decent success now. And, it depends on your donor base as well, right? And so we have a very engaged board chair who was really wonderful about just picking up the phone and calling people. Our founder was doing the same. Everybody was doing the same. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if we would have surpassed our goal the way we did, but I think that I think we would have had some good success reaching it. It's hard to say though,
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a bit of a novelty that you were
Absolutely.
I think one of the first I heard in the Seattle area.
Yep, absolutely.
So your executive director, Kate Cochran, made a comment that I'll repeat out loud, which is actually really important. Said that Upaya ended up paying the auctioneer his full fee to help support you all during this time. So do you want to talk about that at all? I mean,
I mean, just as a team, we had that conversation because, as Heather said, we've had a long relationship with him, and we felt really badly. His contract did not include a cancellation sort of fee, and we wanted to really find a way to engage with him and be able to pay him something. And so that's where the videos also came from. And those videos were awesome. I was in the room when they were taping them, and I was laughing the whole time. But no, I mean, I do think we have to remember that we're kind of freaking out about our events, but all these people, the caterers, the auctioneers, all of them have literally gone from having maybe 40 hours of work as a caterer to 0. And so, so we as a team kind of had that conversation. We had that conversation with the board, and everyone was, in agreement that we wanted to make sure he was paid.
That's great. So one thing I think that people have questions about, did people buy a ticket for the live gala ahead of time? And if so, did you refund their ticket but ask them to do a different donation, or did you transfer that into a donation?
We, very few of our guests actually purchased their own ticket. A great majority are invited to sit at sponsored tables. But we did have probably like 20 or 25 people that purchased tickets, and we just reached out to them each individually and said, I mean, they were already aware of the situation because they would have been getting all of our emails all along, but we sent them an email asking, they're basically saying that if we hadn't heard from them, that we would consider their ticket purchase a donation and send them a receipt. And I think maybe we heard back from one or two, but otherwise we just treated those as donations.
Okay. Okay, maybe one more real technical question, probably for Heather, about the Classy software and the greater giving. One is about if you have a current database that uses greater giving, can you Classy interface with that? Can you talk a little bit more about how you had Classy integrate with your own web page? A little technical on that, Heather.
Yeah, well, so we were lucky to have already fully integrated Classy. We use Salesforce as our CRM. And so we already had Classy integrated with Salesforce, and greater giving kind of sits separate from that, but also you're able to just import data into Salesforce. So Salesforce is really kind of our behind the scenes hub for all of our data. Classy and greater giving do not integrate with one another. So everything that's on our Classy page that's linking to the live auction is really just a link or an embedded sort of video or button that I put in there, but they don't speak with each other. So that is something good to know, that if someone makes a donation on your Classy campaign and then they want to bid on a live auction item, that's separate. So they do have to create a username on greater giving and put their credit card information in there separately, because you can't just import everyone from one to the other.
Great, good. So we're getting close to the end of time. I have a few logistics, but Sumi and Heather, is there anything you want to end with? Some words of advice?
I think learning from each other is really where we are right now. And so we're happy to have those conversations, but also I know that so many of you have been doing this for years, and there are a lot of really interesting ideas out there, but yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
We're rooting for everybody.
Yeah, and there were a lot of comments through the Q&A of thank you so much for sharing this information. It's really valuable. Again, I think this was the first time you did it, but it was executed so well, and I think people can take learnings from it and again apply it to your own reality. Things are different now. So again, it might not be a good idea to have an auction item of going to a restaurant right now, and people might not get on that. So, but there's some really good advice in here. So in terms of logistics, please answer the poll. And again, we hope to do more of these webinars. It sounds like this has been a great service to the community, so we'd like to do more. Let us know what you would like to do. The other thing is a few of you have asked about sharing the recording of this webinar. We are recording it. I will just double check with Upaya and make sure that that's okay. What we're probably going to do is post it on the Global Washington website. Upaya could link to it if they would like as well. So we'll look at the Global Washington website if you want to see the recording. Heather, people have asked for your slide deck as well. I should say all of these webinar new Zoom technology is new for us as well. So we actually did not set up the function in Zoom to capture all of your emails of participants. So if you want a copy of Heather's slides or a link to the video sent to you directly, you need to email Pratima Stanton. Again, the person, you should have her email in the confirmation for this, but we can't do a mass mailing email right now to all of you. We didn't set up that function in Zoom to collect your emails. So reach out to us and we can share more information around that. I think that's it for today. Thank you all. I know, again, this has been a difficult time for nonprofits. I do hope that there are resources, as Sumi said, coming online from foundations. There are some corporate members at least providing free software at this time as well. Global Washington will be setting up a resource page for nonprofits, especially for those that work in global development. But let us know if there's anything else we can do to support. One of the things Global Washington truly believes in is connecting and creating a strong network of organizations working on these issues. we can't do that in person right now, so we hope to do that virtually. So please continue reaching out to us and look for our next webinar on this topic. Sumi, Heather, thank you so much. Kate, if you're still there, and others, Akhtar, I think, is on too. Thanks for
Awesome.
participating on behalf of Upaya. So thanks so much. And everyone, hang in there, stay healthy, stay safe, and hope to see you at our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.